The sound of gunfire shattered the silence inside the dusty school bus. In that split second, a young girl's life changed forever. But this wasn't just a shot at a girl. It was a shot aimed at a voice that refused to be silenced. She wasn't a politician. She didn't command armies or sign treaties. She simply wanted to go to school. And that small wish was enough to terrify a regime built on fear and ignorance. In a region where girls were told to disappear, she chose to speak, loudly. In a valley surrounded by mountains and militants, her voice echoed across the globe. They tried to stop her with a bullet, but what they triggered instead was a global movement. One girl, one story, and an entire world forced to listen. Who is this girl? Why did the Taliban see her as such a threat? And how did she go from a school uniform to the stage of the Nobel Peace Prize? This isn't just a story about courage. It's about the power of one voice in a world that keeps trying to shut us up. Stay with us. What you're about to hear will change the way you see silence. Imagine being told you can't learn because you were born a girl. Imagine soldiers patrolling your street not to protect you, but to keep you quiet. That was Malala's everyday reality. In the Swat Valley of Pakistan, beauty and terror lived side by side. Mountains loomed like protectors, but they couldn't shield girls from a growing storm. Malala's father, a school teacher, believed in education as the true revolution. And he passed that fire to his daughter, who dared to dream bigger than the boundaries around her. She began writing, speaking, resisting, all before she was even a teenager. But with every word she spoke, the danger around her thickened. This story isn't fiction. It's the real journey of a girl who faced death and chose life, not just for herself, but for millions of voiceless girls around the world. Before we dive into her powerful journey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Click the like button if stories like this move you, and tell us in the comments, what country and city are you watching from? Malala Yousafzai was born on July 12, 1997, in Mingora, a small city nestled in Pakistan's Swat Valley. Her birth wasn't celebrated by most. In her culture, daughters were often met with silence. But her father, Ziauddin, refused that silence. He named her after a fierce Afghan warrior woman, Malala Yousafzai, and vowed that his daughter's voice would never be hidden. From an early age, Malala was drawn to her father's classroom. While other kids played, she sat quietly at the back, eyes wide, soaking in every word he taught. Education wasn't just a lesson to her. It was a thrill, a gift she refused to take for granted. She knew even then that knowledge was power. Ziauddin ran a school that welcomed girls, even as the Taliban crept closer. While others closed their doors in fear, he kept his open, and Malala watched, listened, learned. Soon, whispers filled the valley. The Taliban was banning music, burning CDs, threatening teachers, and forbidding girls from going to school. For most families, fear led to silence, but Ziauddin spoke out, and his daughter followed, not with anger, but with unwavering truth. By age 11, Malala was blogging anonymously for the BBC. She detailed life under the Taliban, the fear, the loss, the stolen futures. Her words cut through the fog like sunlight. She wrote about missing school, about empty desks, about her best friend hiding her books, and readers from around the world began to notice. But attention brought risk. Her identity, once secret, slowly became known. The Taliban doesn't forget voices that make noise. Still, Malala didn't stop. She began appearing in interviews, spoke at conferences, and stood proudly as the face of girls' education in Pakistan. Every step forward brought her closer to danger. Threats began appearing. Her name was whispered with hatred, but Malala wouldn't be intimidated. She was still just a child, but one with steel in her spine. She believed that no girl should fear school, that no dream should die in silence. Each morning she tied her school uniform, knowing it could make her a target. Yet she walked into class like it was a battlefield she was ready to win. Her voice began reaching beyond borders. Awards came, cameras followed, but at home, shadows lengthened. On October 9, 2012, a man boarded her school bus. He asked one question: "Who is Malala?" Then he pulled the trigger. The bullet tore through the bus window and struck Malala in the head. The world seemed to hold its breath. How could one girl's voice ignite such violent fury? Malala was rushed to a hospital, her life hanging by a thread. Doctors fought tirelessly to save her, but the road to recovery would be long and uncertain. News of the attack spread worldwide. People everywhere held vigils, sent prayers, and raised their voices in support. The bullet meant to silence her only amplified her message. Malala awoke weeks later in a hospital far from home, in the United Kingdom. Her fight for education had become a global cause, and she was now at its center. Despite pain and uncertainty, Malala remained undeterred. She spoke publicly from her hospital bed, declaring, "They thought that the bullet would silence us, but they failed." Her words inspired millions. Leaders, activists, and everyday people rallied for girls' education. Malala's courage became a beacon of hope in dark times. The attack transformed her life forever. She no longer lived in the valley, but her heart never left Swat. She knew the fight was far from over. Malala's father became her strongest supporter. Together they expanded their mission, founding the Malala Fund to empower girls worldwide to claim their right to education. The Taliban continued to threaten, but Malala refused to back down. Her voice was louder, stronger, carrying the dreams of millions. In 2013, she addressed the United Nations, her words echoing a universal truth. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. Malala's story wasn't just about survival, it was about transformation. From victim to advocate, from fear to fearless determination. Life in the UK was safer, but far from easy. Malala missed the smell of the valley, the rhythm of her old school, the warmth of home wrapped in danger. At school in Birmingham, she was just another student, except she wasn't. Between classes, she gave interviews, met world leaders, and shaped global policy. Her classmates didn't always understand. How could they? One day she was learning algebra. The next, she was debating with presidents about education budgets. Yet she stayed grounded. Malala did her homework, laughed with friends, and dreamed of one day returning to Swat. The Malala Fund began working with local leaders, not dropping solutions from above, but lifting voices from the ground. Malala knew real change starts from within. She met girls who walked miles to school, girls who faced child marriage, girls who hid their textbooks from abusive fathers. And she listened, really listened. Malala became their microphone. Their stories poured through her speeches, each one a spark in a world desperate for light. Critics emerged too. Some called her a puppet, a symbol too polished. But Malala never responded with anger. She let her work speak. More schools were built, more girls received scholarships. The numbers rose, and so did hope. At just 17, Malala was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, the youngest recipient in history. But when asked how she felt, she simply said, "I want every child to go to school." The prize wasn't an end, it was fuel. Fuel to reach more girls, knock on more doors, and challenge more governments. Malala believed education wasn't just a right, it was a shield, a tool, a weapon against oppression, poverty, and war. Her voice, once a whisper in a valley, was now shaking walls at the United Nations. But she never forgot why she started. She wasn't fighting for fame. She was fighting for the girl who hides a notebook under her bed because someone told her she shouldn't dream. Malala often said, "We realize the importance of our voice when we are silenced." And she never let silence win again. As Malala grew, so did her mission. She wasn't just advocating for education, she was challenging centuries of patriarchy, culture, and politics wrapped in fear. Traveling to refugee camps, she met girls who had lost everything, homes, families, childhoods, but clung to books like lifelines. She asked them what they needed most, not food, not clothes. They answered, a school. It hit her deeply. Education wasn't secondary, it was survival. It gave these girls the power to rebuild, to believe in tomorrow. In Jordan, she met Syrian refugees. In Nigeria, girls kidnapped by extremists. In Kenya, teen mothers forced out of classrooms. Each story added fuel to her fire. The Malala Fund began growing, reaching girls in Syria, Nigeria, India, Brazil. It wasn't charity. It was a rebellion made of books and voices. She faced governments resistant to reform. She challenged presidents and parliaments not with blame, but with unshakable clarity. You say children are your future, but where is the funding for their future? She said it with grace, but it landed like thunder. Her influence began to reshape laws. Countries increased education budgets. Communities built schools. Girls who once whispered now spoke boldly. Through it all, Malala stayed focused. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She was just a girl who believed every child deserves a desk. She graduated from Oxford, not as a celebrity, but as a student who studied late, worried about tests, and drank too much tea. People expected her to run for office, to lead movements, to write manifestos. But Malala chose something radical, to listen more than she spoke. She co-authored books, produced documentaries, amplified others' stories, because she knew this movement was never about her alone. Fame never seduced her. What mattered were the girls still waiting behind locked school gates, still dreaming behind curtains of fear. Malala wasn't just building schools, she was rebuilding hope, brick by brick, voice by voice, from Pakistan to Peru. With every speech, every visit, Malala was rewriting what it meant to be young, female, and fearless in a world that still doubts all three. She married in 2021, not in a palace or with grand fanfare, but with simplicity, love, and intention. Her voice didn't change, only her journey deepened. Critics still tried to diminish her. They said she was too Western, too privileged, too idealistic for a world so broken. But she answered the same way she always had, with action, with scholarships, school books, and relentless belief in human dignity. Malala began spotlighting marginalized voices, Black girls in America, indigenous communities, Afghan girls silenced once more. She didn't just speak at the table, she made space for others to sit. She wasn't interested in being the only voice. She wanted a chorus. Her message evolved. Education was still at the center, but justice, equity, and peace were now the pillars holding it up. Malala grew into a global citizen, never abandoning her roots, but planting seeds in new soil across every continent. And through it all, she never stopped writing. Her pen remained a sword, her words a shield. In interviews, she's still soft-spoken, still humble, but her calmness is not weakness. It's the strength of someone who knows who she is. Malala often reminds young people, you don't have to be anything but yourself, but you must be brave enough to use your voice. Her legacy isn't carved in stone, but in the thousands of classrooms she helped open, the laws she influenced, and the futures she refused to let die. She is no longer the girl with a bullet wound. She's the woman who refused to be a victim, who rose again and lifted millions with her. And still, she dreams of a world where every girl learns without fear, where education is a right, not a fight, where books replace bullets. That dream, once whispered in the Swat Valley, has become a global anthem, and Malala, its most powerful voice. Malala Yousafzai didn't ask to be famous. She didn't set out to change the world. She simply wanted to go to school. And because she dared to speak, millions now do too. Her story isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. How a single voice, no matter how young or soft, can echo through history. In a world that often rewards silence, Malala chose courage. She showed us that bravery isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet girl refusing to sit down. Thank you for watching this story. What part of Malala's journey inspired you most? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And let us know what country and city you're watching from. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story if it moved you. Together, we can spread voices that still matter. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing.